The greatest gift isn't keeping something precious. It's knowing when to give it away. Morning light filters through Shirley's bedroom window as she wakes with determination in her eyes. She reaches under her bed and pulls out a worn shoebox, handling it like a treasure. At the local diner, Sarah pours coffee during her shift break. Exhaustion lines her face as she confides in her friend Christy that the bank called again. If she can't come up with 3 months' worth of payments by month's end, they'll lose their house. She hasn't told Shirley, unable to bear the thought of telling her daughter they might lose the only home she's shared with her father, especially after everything else the child has lost. Christy gently reminds her that children understand more than adults give them credit for, especially Shirley. Sarah notices the time and rushes to finish her shift, asking Christy to pick Shirley up from the community center again. Before they part, Christy reminds Sarah that she can't keep the financial troubles from her daughter forever. Outside the community center that afternoon, Christy and Shirley walk together, the young girl's backpack seeming unusually heavy. Shirley notices Patrick, a homeless man sitting on his usual bench, and asks if she can speak with him. Christy reluctantly agrees, watching closely from a short distance. Shirley approaches Patrick, who looks up in surprise. From her backpack, she carefully removes the shoebox and explains these were her father's special project, the best shoes he ever made. He was crafting them when he became ill. Patrick stares at the beautifully crafted leather shoes nestled in tissue paper, overwhelmed by the offering. When he asks why she would give away something so precious, Shirley answers simply that her father always said shoes help carry people's journeys, and everyone deserves a good journey. She explains that she polished them weekly, but they weren't meant to sit in a box. They were meant to carry someone forward. Her father had told her so in a dream. As Patrick carefully lifts one shoe, he notices a small tag inside with Michael Robinson stamped on it. His expression transforms to shock and recognition as he asks if Michael Robinson was her father. Before Shirley can fully understand his reaction, Christy calls her away. Patrick sits alone with the revelation, whispering Michael's name as tears form in his eyes. From the community center window, Stephen watches thoughtfully. Later that day, Patrick sits alone on his park bench, the shoebox open beside him. He removes his tattered shoes, revealing blistered feet, and slides his feet into Michael's shoes, which fit surprisingly well. As he stands to test them, the moment overwhelms him. "Full circle," he whispers to himself. A memory surfaces from 30 years ago. A young Patrick entering a restaurant wearing shoes given to him by Michael, earning an approving nod from the manager who offers him an application. Back in the present, Patrick walks a few steps in the new shoes before stopping, overcome with emotion. He pulls out his phone, breaking his character, and calls someone named Aaron, asking him to research everything about Michael Robinson, a cobbler from Westbrook, and his family. That evening, Sarah frantically searches through Shirley's room for Michael's special shoes. When she calls out, Shirley quietly admits from the kitchen table that she gave them away to a man whose shoes were broken. Sarah struggles to maintain composure as she learns her daughter gave away one of their most precious mementos to a homeless stranger. Despite Shirley's explanation that her father always said shoes weren't supposed to sit in boxes but to help people, Sarah cannot contain her hurt. She leaves the room in tears, while Shirley sits alone, silent tears streaming down her face. The next morning at the community center, Stephen works at his desk when a knock interrupts him. A well-dressed man stands in the doorway. Patrick in his true identity, no longer disguised. He introduces himself as Patrick Warner, CEO of Warner Development, the company that has been planning to visit regarding the neighborhood project. Stephen notices Patrick's footwear. The leather shoes Shirley gave him, now polished and paired incongruously with his expensive suit. As understanding dawns, Patrick explains his method of immersing himself in communities before developing them, gaining perspective that reports and statistics can't provide. More importantly, he reveals an extraordinary connection. 30 years ago, a cobbler named Michael Robinson gave shoes to a homeless teenager, changing the course of that teenager's life. Patrick was that teenager. Before Stephen can fully process this revelation, the door opens and Shirley enters with Christy. The child immediately recognizes her father's shoes, though not the man wearing them. As Patrick kneels to explain, Shirley questions his fancy clothes and missing beard. Meanwhile, at Sarah's workplace, a man named Aaron from Warner Development approaches her about purchasing her property on Maple Street. Despite her firm assertion that her home isn't for sale, Aaron hints that the offer would clear her mortgage and leave her with a substantial sum. Sarah remains torn between financial necessity and the sentimental value of the only place where her daughter has memories of her father. Back at the community center, Patrick shares his story with Shirley, Christy, and Stephen. He explains how at 15 his family lost everything and he was homeless, struggling to find work with shoes falling apart. Michael didn't just give him shoes but a chance. A chance that led to a job which paid for classes, eventually leading to college and his business. When questioned about his presence in the neighborhood, Patrick admits his company develops properties and has been planning a project there for months. He spends time in communities before finalizing plans to understand what people truly need. The door bursts open as Sarah enters, immediately recognizing Michael's shoes on Patrick's feet. Despite Patrick's attempts to explain, Sarah angrily gathers Shirley to leave, bitter about another developer offering to buy their home and erase every trace of Michael. When she learns that Warner Development had approached her at work, she accuses Patrick of manipulating her daughter into giving away one of the few things they had left of her father. As they're about to leave, Shirley resists, insisting that Patrick knew her father from before. Patrick quietly explains that her husband saved his life 30 years ago with an act of kindness much like Shirley's. He had no idea of the connection until seeing Michael's name inside the shoes. From his pocket, he produces a worn business card he's carried for 30 years. Sarah takes the card, recognizing Michael's handwriting, her hands trembling. When she asks what he wants from them, Patrick insists he wants nothing but to give back, to honor what Michael and now Shirley have done for him. Still bitter at the thought of him buying their home and tearing down Michael's shop, Sarah leaves with Shirley. Later, Patrick storms into Aaron's office, demanding all plans for the Westbrook development. When confronted about approaching Sarah Ricker, Patrick firmly states that her house stays where it is. Despite Aaron's protests about redesigning an entire development because of a sob story, Patrick remains resolute. That family changed his life twice, and he's not merely redesigning the development but reimagining it. He instructs Aaron to contact Stephen Malone and clear his calendar, determined to approach the project differently. That evening, Sarah sorts through Michael's belongings, tears streaming down her face as Shirley watches from the doorway. The child asks if her mother is angry with her, and Sarah assures her she's just sad and confused. Shirley insists Patrick really knew her father, and Sarah admits she believes it. As they share a moment of understanding, with Shirley repeating her father's wisdom that shoes aren't the important part but the journey they help with, the doorbell rings. Christy stands on the porch holding a newspaper with a headline announcing Warner Development's new community initiative in Westbrook. Affordable housing and job training center planned. The centerpiece will be the Michael Robinson Memorial Workshop, providing vocational training in traditional crafts, including cobbling. The article quotes Patrick Warner crediting a pair of shoes given to him by the late Michael Robinson for changing his life's course. The next day, the community center fills with neighborhood residents as Patrick presents with Stephen and Aaron. When Sarah and Shirley enter, the crowd parts for them as they take seats in the front row. Patrick acknowledges the valid concerns about development, often meaning displacement and communities losing their heart in the name of progress. But he proposes a different approach. What if development could preserve a community's identity while improving its infrastructure? What if instead of pushing people out, they lifted people up? The unveiled plans show renovated buildings, green spaces, and a central workshop facility. The Michael Robinson Community Trust will ensure current residents can remain in their homes with subsidized mortgages if needed, while the development includes affordable housing, small business incubators, and a vocational training center focusing on traditional crafts and skills. Patrick speaks of the shoes he wears, made by Michael Robinson and given to him by Shirley, reminding him that journeys intersect in unexpected ways and single acts of kindness can echo across decades. He announces that the deed to Sarah's home will be transferred to her free and clear, and invites her to consult on the workshop design, acknowledging that no one knew Michael's vision better than she did. Sarah, emotional, stands to speak of her husband's belief that everyone deserved dignity in their journey, that craftsmanship wasn't just about making things but about honoring the people who would use them. She believes he would be proud of this vision. Patrick credits Shirley's extraordinary compassion for the entire project, seeing someone in need and giving her most precious possession without hesitation or expectation. After the presentation, Aaron quietly approaches Patrick with concerns about the board's questions regarding the financial model. Patrick confidently asserts the project will be profitable in ways that matter beyond the next quarterly report. Aaron admits he's finally understanding Patrick's methods. Outside the community center, Shirley approaches Patrick to ask if he's really going to build a shop like her father's. He promises something better, bigger, with apprentices learning the craft, including her. When she asks if he'll continue wearing her father's shoes, he assures her he will, every day, to remind him of the journey point. 1 year later, a bright, well-equipped workshop hums with activity. In one corner, Shirley sits at a small workbench, carefully showing a younger child how to polish a shoe, explaining how the process brings back the leather story. Sarah watches nearby, smiling as she organizes tools. The workshop walls display Michael's old tools in a place of honor. Patrick enters, wearing the now well-worn but still beautiful shoes, and announces that the Community Trust Board approved the expansion. 3 more workshops opening across the city next year. Sarah reflects that Michael would never have imagined his little shop growing into all this. Patrick observes that sometimes the smallest acts have the largest consequences. A pair of shoes, a child's generosity, never knowing what will change everything. Stephen enters with a homeless man and his young son, introducing them to Shirley as needing help with footwear for a job interview. Confidently, Shirley leads them to a shelf of beautifully restored shoes, sharing her father's wisdom that everyone deserves a good journey. As Mr. Davis tries on shoes with his son, Patrick stands back with Sarah, remarking on how extraordinary Shirley is, just like her father. Sarah, smiling through tears, acknowledges that Michael lives on in her daughter and in all they've created together. Patrick touches the shoes on his feet, sharing his experience that true wealth isn't what's in your bank account but the difference you make in someone else's journey. When 8-year-old Shirley Robinson gave away her most precious possession to a stranger, she couldn't have known she was completing a circle of kindness begun 30 years earlier. Her simple act of generosity transformed not just one life but an entire community. Genuine kindness doesn't calculate returns. It gives freely, creating ripples that travel farther than we can see, sometimes returning to us in ways we never expected. Every journey matters. And sometimes the simplest gift, given with an open heart, can change everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of kindness today. And don't forget to subscribe to Genie Soul Stories for more tales that celebrate the human spirit. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever helped a stranger and discovered an unexpected connection? Or has someone's kindness changed the course of your life? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Until next time, remember that every act of kindness, no matter how small, creates a silver link in the chain of humanity, connecting us all in ways we might never expect but always deeply need.